We move on to item 65, which concerns cycle hangers and is a notice of motion from the Conservative group. And I call upon Councillor Nemeth, please, to propose the motion as detailed on page 15 of the agenda. And Councillor Nemeth, you have 5 minutes. Thank you.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. One thing that all councillors can agree on is that the council's new cycle hangers have proved to be incredibly controversial. See, I said everyone agrees.
Yeah, that's proving.
See, these most unbeautiful objects are springing up all around the city in all sorts of inappropriate places, and they're impossible to miss. They're inherently large and slab-sided, with many straddling both road and pavement.
But like cars.
They're certainly more, as I was about to say, they are certainly more prominent than the average car. Most now feature graffiti, which was sadly inevitable, and they're being plonked outside the homes of people who have no plans whatsoever to use them, very much against their wishes. Come on. One underlying issue is that the council introduced the hangars without going through the usual channels, by the back door, as it were. And those of us who serve on Transport Committee are well used to debating controversial issues, and we do our best to scrutinise and improve any such policies before us. Financial, legal and equalities issues are all well within our remit. But cycle hangers haven't had a proper airing. There was a brief mention in the Budget Council paperwork and some TRO, which is Traffic Regulation Order, consultations for the most controversial placements, but never a proper debate on the principle. Councillors and the public at large did not have the opportunity to scrutinise the policy, and had they been allowed to do so, it is likely that some of the concerns which have now arisen might have been ironed out. I imagine that many councillors here would be furious if the council were to suddenly place such a monstrosity outside their home. Indeed, some of the curious locations that have been chosen have been met with ridicule nationally. And like bins, they attract noise, vandalism and damage, and they take away car parking, and they take away light. They take away light from basemented properties. Yeah, Well, you clearly don't live in a basement next to a bicycle hanger.
I'm just going to stop you there, Councillor Nemeth. Can I ask all members, please, to allow Councillor Nemeth to speak? Thank you.
No, thank you. Yeah, as I was saying, good example just round the corner from me. These large bicycle hangers take away light from basemented properties. They should never be placed next to someone who lives below them. When the sun shines across them, they take away light. There are many suitable locations for bicycle hangers, such as at the ends of certain streets or on the many areas of underused, hard-standing areas on pavements. But a hanger should never be placed outside somebody's home who does not want it there. It's just plain wrong. So questions over locations, cleaning and repair regimes, long-term cost, and any potential review periods should have been answered long before such a scheme was implemented. So the hope now, the point of this notice of motion, is that the scheme can be improved before any further damage is done. Thank you.
Well done.
Thank you, Councillor Nemeth. And I call upon Councillor Bakin to formally second the motion.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm happy to formally second the motion and reserve my right to speak after the debate. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So I note that there has been a Labour Group amendment as set out in the addendum, which will be moved by Councillor Alcock. Councillor Alcock, you have 3 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Well, the Labour Group really does welcome cycle hangers. We're very much in favour of the policy of introducing them. We think they're in principle an important addition to the city's infrastructure. They will help people choose active travel options and reduce their carbon footprints and contribute positively to the health and well-being of the city. And they can make cycling a more accessible option for residents, and particularly those in flats and HMOs where they may not be able to store a bike at home safely or even get it up the stairs in many cases. I believe they're also intended to be financially sustainable, which is an important thing. Personally, I think they're actually rather stylish and it's preferable to the large four-wheel drive that's often parked outside my home that seems to take up two car parking spaces most of the time. However, it's a way that the scheme has been implemented that is raising some serious concerns. There are major concerns about the consistency of approach when assessing where cycle hangars can and should be sited. And that currently doesn't appear to take account of real and reasonable local issues. And it's a very worrying pattern that has emerged with this administration, from cycle lanes to low traffic neighbourhoods to cycle hangars. The Green administration seems to be incapable of conducting meaningful consultation with residents to secure buy-in, considering nuances and include expertise from those who know their communities best and ensure constructive co-design of schemes that will work well for residents and therefore work well for our city. The city is nothing without its community. As referred to earlier in my oral question, it's certainly highly inappropriate and very unhelpful to threaten well-meaning and responsible citizens with a call to the police when they question how council services are being implemented in their neighbourhood in a very gentle and reasonable manner. And I'm afraid this zealot-like behaviour will only alienate citizens from engaging in the process of active travel rather than governed by consensus and win support. Finally, Madam Mayor, I'd like to refer to the fourth recommendation in the Climate Assembly, which was that the Council should actively consult and engage with the community, not move fast and break things without consulting with residents properly, and then being surprised when there's a community backlash. I'd ask the Council to support our amendment to the motion. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Alcock, and I call upon Councillor Appich to second.
Yeah, formally second, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Appich. So I call now upon Councillor Davis to speak on behalf of the Green Group. Councillor Albrook.
Sorry, Madam Mayor, for confusion. We had a speech from Councillor Nemeth that was riddled with inaccuracies, but then we have a motion that's fairly riddled with them too, so I'm not quite surprised. He cares about the beauty and heritage on our streets, but not when it comes to the hundreds of cars that line our streets. These are, I think, quite attractive. They are designed with the street in mind and indeed quite popular. He talks in his motion about unfavourable and that it's widely regarded as something that people don't support, when actually I think it's one small group of people who have an axe to grind that got attention from the right-wing press. And in response, our cycle hangars have been applauded by many. Every cycle hanger we've replaced on the streets is nearly full. I think there's one hangar that has one space in it. Cycle hangars were in the local transport plan that went to ETS. There was also a consultation asking residents to put forward locations, and they responded in their droves. Over 2,000 people responded to that consultation suggesting locations. There was a small accurate part of Councillor Nemeth's speech because he did point out that they went out for traffic regulation orders. Again, a consultation. So to say that there's no consultation is a farce. To say that there has been no engagement when members have had plenty of opportunity to vote on cycle hangars is also not true. We saw from the response to the survey last year that residents really want them. With so many people living in shared accommodation, flats or houses where storage space is at a premium, it can be so difficult for many people to find space to safely store their cycles. The location of those hangars is determined by where people ask them from. We know that people want to travel more actively and sustainably, so we have to give them the right infrastructure. Cycle hangars are a good incentive for people to travel more by cycle because they don't have it sitting in their hallway or having to carry it up the steps. And the reality of the Labour Group amendment is once again another attempt to delay climate action. Let me quote you something from the Climate Assembly, because the Labour Group sometimes claim they support the Climate Assembly and then sometimes they don't. They said, "We need to be radical. It can't be a slow shift. We are I don't want to be negative, but we are running out of time. We need to do a set of radical behavioural changes. We will then be incentivised to cycle. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you very much, Councillor Albrook. Onto the... Yeah. So, Councillor Baggy, you reserved your right to speak. Would you like to speak?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Madam Mayor, let me bring this thing closer. It's been an interesting back and forth across both sides of the room. But I think there are a few things all of us will agree on. One is that providing cycle lane parking in residential areas is important for residents to be able to cycle and promote the mode shift. It's also important for those living in older flats or high-rise buildings where space is at a premium. Bike hangars are a solution, that's correct. They offer secure, sheltered cycle parking on residential streets, accommodating a number of parking spaces per hangar, etc., etc. All of that is absolutely fine. I don't think it's fair to dismiss concerns raised about their location, shape, size, maintenance as the concerns of a few. 2,000 people responding to a consultation is brilliant, but we have 270,000 people in this city, Madam Mayor. So I think we owe it to everybody to listen. I think this notice of motion asks for an officer report. And there are a few things, I think, to my colleagues on the right of the room. I think there are some really fair points about the procurement process, the supply, the installation, I think more importantly, the maintenance of these things. You know, we'd like to know whether there's a single supplier framework, whether that was established to supply and install and maintain these. Also clarity whether these cycle lanes are only for pedal bicycles or people can put e-bikes within them. Again, what sort of blocks are used, etc., etc. Just the basic nuts and bolts of these particular structures. Sometimes these things sit on the highway, sometimes they don't. Sometimes they part sit on the highway, sometimes they part sit on the pavement, etc. It just appears to be a situation of sticking them where they would go without. I think, as we heard, it was in a committee recently where residents immediately kind of pick up on that, and we don't particularly want that near us. Not on the pavement, not in that location, not in that shape. Some of them already riddled with graffiti, Madam Mayor. Who cleans the graffiti? Is it the council, or is it whoever installed those boxes on the street? Are they made of marine grade steel? How long are they there for? Is it a 48-month contract like the city of Bristol did? Or is it longer than that? Or is it less than that? Are they going to even last 4 years, in the shape and materials that they're made of? So I think all of those questions are ones that we've had, because I don't think we've ever had answers to them. I mean, fair enough, we've not asked, but only because these things appeared via TROs very quickly. And this is a very reasonable forum to ask for that to happen. People chose where they want them to be, but there must be, and this question was asked earlier on by Councillor Robert, what's the allocation mechanism? Is it that if you live on a street or the street nearby that you can ask for one? If you don't have a garage, can you ask for one? Or if you have a garage, do you still get to ask for one? Yeah, so I think all of those are really, really important questions that not only us, but I think the residents who are apprehensive about this, let's not say supportive or against, let's say apprehensive, deserve answers too. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Baghain, and I'm alert to the fact that Councillor Janio had been indicated, so apologies, Councillor Janio.
Yeah, it's all right. It's my night tonight, isn't it? I can remember 14, 15 years ago, it sounds like a broken record, don't I? But I can remember when we were in administration a couple of millennia ago, and I was responsible for promoting cycling, believe it or not, and the scars are still on my back because the Conservative group don't always follow cycling quite that. Yeah, anyway, I'll stop there. But I can remember cycling into town time and time again and finding early in the morning all the cycling was taken, all the parking was taken because residents used to park their bikes in cycle parking, and it was so frustrating as a cyclist going in and having to chain it on a lamppost or sting it up on a tree or something, or wherever you put cycles when you can't find anywhere. So I'm afraid I'm quite supportive of these hangars. I quite like them. I recently, a couple of years ago, I used to cycle down Don't Titter for my early morning yoga, and it was and I used to find all of the cycle bays were full of bikes because people hadn't yet gone to work. It was very frustrating, and I did actually ask officers, is there any way of bringing in cycle hangars? So this might be a bit counterintuitive, but I fully support them. Well done.
Thank you, Councillor Janyo. Councillor Afish, did you wish to speak?
No, thank you.
Thank you. So, Councillor Nemeth, do you wish to respond to the debate, and can you please indicate if you accept the amendment?
Yes, Madam Mayor. So, very much welcome the sensible contributions from Councillor Alcott, Councillor Begay. We certainly accept the amendment. I think it's sad that no explanation was given as to why this didn't go through ETS committee in the standard way. So just to be completely clear, the mature, democratic and speedier approach would have been to take a report to the November 2021 ETS, agree the principles behind the scheme with board principles about locations agreed early on, so they didn't become arguments where TROs would be required, and it would have then gone through budget, and we wouldn't have had to have an argument at ETS a few weeks ago about more controversial locations anyway. So they'd already be in. So that would have been the sensible way to do it. All questions would have been answered. Members of the public wouldn't have been wound up because it wouldn't have been a surprise. And well, most of them would be in by now, and they'd be in better spots anyway. They wouldn't be outside people's homes. They'd be at the ends of streets and on the many areas of concrete that nothing's happening on. So thanks everyone for listening so politely, and look forward to the vote. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Nemeth. So as the amendment has been agreed, the notice of motion is moved as amended, and I'll put this to the vote. Can I have all those in favour, please? Thank you. All those against? Any abstentions? Noted. Thank you. So that motion has been carried as amended. So I now move on to item number 66, which is the cost of living business